Hey guys, so the hair is very high today and we're back. I have been a mess in April for filming. We're in May. I don't know what month it is. I don't know how to film. I took last week off because literally I spent the whole last weekend gardening and I wanted to die and just didn't have time to film, if we're being honest. But we're back. We're doing 2 videos today. We're ready to get it pumping. So, hi, I'm Kayla. If you're new here, subscribe to my channel up every Tuesday and Thursday when I'm not skipping a week. And we do commentary, we do curvy girl style, we do makeup, we do whatever I'm feeling. And today I want to kind of do a continuation to my last video on David Dobrik and Jeff Wittek, where I discussed Jeff Wittek's video series about what happened to his eye, the continuation of that series, and then a couple things that he also mentioned on his podcast about it that I wanted to touch on. We're a David Dobrik hate channel around here now. So if you are a David Dobrik stan, I'm sorry, I'm not. Quite honestly, I kind of come from this from an unbiased perspective because I was never a fan of neither Jeff nor David going into this. Obviously, did some research on David during the Dom situation and the Seth situation, and I have grown to not like David, but not because of any reason other than his own actions. Someone commented on my last video and said, "You can't judge David because you don't even know him." I said, neither do you, but here you are defending him on my channel. I think a lot of people think that because Jeff has basically said he's cool with David, people think that you can't criticize David because Jeff is okay with it and Jeff is the person that was injured by David. But you know, people are hurt by their friends and family and loved ones all the time and are abused by them all the time and still defend them, and that doesn't mean that that person is not a terrible person. So let's get into what happened in the last 2 videos on Jeff Wittek's series, what he covered in his podcast, and my thoughts. So as a summary, basically Jeff Wittek revealed the excavator incident that had taken his eye or had hurt his eye. In the video, he revealed that he broke his hip, he broke his ankle, I believe, shattered his skull in, I think it was 5 or 9 places, shattered his orbital bone, and almost lost his eye. He also revealed that David Dobrik didn't talk to him for a month after his, I believe, 2nd surgery. So trash person. And then basically in his second to last video, he basically talked to David, told him that it was trash that he didn't talk to him, but they really just kind of joked around in the video, and David once again never sincerely apologized to his friend for injuring him and ignoring him. And Jeff basically was like, I want you to make it up to me by jumping out of a plane. Jeff had learned to jump out of a plane by himself for David's vlog, so this was kind of like Jeff wanted him to also see what it was like to be scared, I guess. But I mean, personally, I don't think it's enough because, like, let's be real, David took Jeff's life into his hands. He was operating an excavator allegedly with no training. He was allegedly filming with one hand while operating this excavator that Jeff was on. He nearly killed Jeff. Jeff nearly died in the hospital. His doctor said if the hit on his eye had been either 3 millimeters or 3 degrees difference, he would have died or lost his eye. So I mean, there's a whole lot to be said about David basically operating a company as a person who's never had a job before with no oversight. They had no stunt coordinator, no medics available, just Jeff and David and their friends doing stupid stunts on an excavator. And while yes, you can say that Jeff made the choice to get on the excavator, I would say that he did that because he trusted David and he didn't think, like, there's a video on his channel of him kind of reviewing the footage again, and he was like, I didn't think David was gonna go fast. I thought we were just gonna get like a nice kind of panoramic shot of me swinging around with the mountains in the background, and then David decided to whip it around fast and doesn't understand physics and the law of motion. So he stopped the excavator, when he realized it was going too fast, Jeff smashed into the side, fell into the water, and nearly drowned because his leg was caught in the excavator like rope that he was in. So I just don't personally think that like David jumping out of a plane quite does it for me for like making things even for a man that literally almost died. Like, sure, David also covered his medical bills, but let's be real, that's the least that David could do. And then in the end of the second to last video, Jeff takes the stitches out of his eye and basically says he can't see. And so the last video on his channel opens up with that, where Jeff is taking the stitches out of his own eye, which like is fine because it's on the outside of your eyelid. He took the stitches out, his doctor basically walked him through how to do it, and then he was like, I can't see. He said he was seeing stars in that eye, and he started panicking, like rightly so, because he was like, I've already done 2 surgeries for this eye, and now I think he might have gone back on a 3rd surgery, and then because something like wasn't sitting right, and then he basically couldn't see and he started panicking, which like rightfully so. He basically was like, my career is over, my life is over, you know, the dramatic stuff that anyone would do in those situations. So then he calls David and he tells David like, I can't see, and David goes, oh fuck, what went wrong? And because Jeff had sent a picture of his eyeball to his doctor, and his doctor basically was like, oh, it looks like one of the tendons in your eye ripped or was torn during surgery, so you'll need to come back for another surgery. And he compared repairing his eyeball to sewing together bubble gum, which like sounds terrifying. So he calls David and David goes, oh shit, what happened? And then he tells him, and David says, and he says, I might lose my eye. And David's reply is, fuck me. And a lot of people were like, and I think that if David was any other person who said fuck me, you could maybe be like, okay, I can see both sides of being like, okay, first of all, that sounds selfish as fuck to say fuck me, not oh my god, I'm so sorry, or that's terrible, or like, listen man, everything's gonna be okay, or some sort of comfort. Sure, maybe it was in the phone call, but it wasn't kept in, and I just don't believe that Jeff would have cut that out if it was there. So it does feel very selfish of David to say fuck me, as opposed to I don't know anything else like holy fuck or oh my god or something other than making it about David, because like it's like fuck me, like oh fuck, this sucks for me, because let's be real, if Jeff never got his eye back, that would be on David and everyone would know that. So like David's paying for hospital bills allegedly so that Jeff can get better and get all the surgeries he needs, because if Jeff's life goes back to normal, then it doesn't fall back on David every single day. Which actually just kind of made me realize that one of the reasons that David is paying for the hospital bills is probably for that reason, so that he can get Jeff the best doctors, so that one day this can all just be swept under the rug and we can all move on with our lives. Sure, maybe I am biased against David, but it's just like, I'm looking at it as a pattern of behavior of where David has gone and where David is, and he has shown that he is selfish and careless and only thinks about himself throughout this entire series and a lot of other stuff that I've seen on his channel. So like it is just a pattern of behavior at this point, as opposed to me being biased. Now, some people have said that, you know, he's just saying, oh, fuck me, as in like, it's just a saying, like it's the same as saying, oh, that sucks, or oh, holy shit, or whatever. You just say, oh, fuck me. So maybe he didn't mean it selfishly, but it's very hard to not see it selfishly. Let me know what you guys think down below. Am I reading too much into this? Are people reading too much into this? Or do you think David is a selfish motherfucker? I can kind of see it both ways, but I think just his own actions throughout this have really kind of led me to believe it was a selfish feeling. So then, to give David some credit, he did come over to Jeff's house after this. They talked about it, and he did take Jeff to the airport. And I think he went with him for his surgery the next day. Jeff had his surgery. He really kind of glosses over the surgery part, and like we kind of end the series not knowing what his eye situation is. Like it's just kind of like, okay, we've moved on. And I'm pretty sure he's said in podcasts and stuff that like he can't see still. So it's hard to tell what the timeline is and what his actual eye situation is right now. But this is kind of where we are. Jeff has the surgery, and then he basically talks about how his mental health isn't okay. And so here's the thing. So he goes to see this doctor to get a brain scan. Now the doctor is called, hold on. So the doctor is called Dr. Aman. I think it's Aman. And so when this guy first showed up on the screen, I recognized him, and they showed a clip of him from Dr. Phil. And I had actually watched a video, like a therapist reacts to Dr. Phil, and he was in the clip that I had watched, and like, he just seemed sus to me. And so I did a little bit of digging myself because, I don't know, I think that if you were having mental health issues, sure, it might be helpful to have your brain scanned, but like, it might also just be that you need to go see a therapist and talk through the fact that your best friend nearly killed you. He hasn't shown a lot of empathy towards that. You nearly died, like you had a near-death experience. Like, this is all stuff that very clearly would traumatize a person. Like, you went through a trauma, so it's very clear to me that like, you should go to a therapist. And like, you're rich, give her. If I was rich, I'd be going to a therapist all the fucking time. But Dr. Aman is not a therapist, he's a psychiatrist, but what he does is this brain scan technology called SPECT, where he scans the brain and basically tells you based on these scans how damaged your brain is. But like I said, something about him felt sus. And like, Dr. Phil is not a reputable source. He's not a doctor anymore, first of all. Second of all, we know he was sending kids to a camp that abused them in Utah, I think. So he doesn't have the most, I'm like, I mean, really all the doctors that got famous because of Oprah, Dr. Oz, Dr. Phil, we've all kind of realized they're sus and they're just doing shit for fame. So it made me wonder about Dr. Aman. So I did some Googling, and what I read was that his SPECT technology has been discredited by most people in his industry, psychiatrists, neurologists, and brain imaging people. They've basically called him a con man. He has a YouTube channel where he talks about this, so it kind of feels like he's trying to get famous. He has multiple of his locations around the country, and he charges people thousands of dollars for this brain imaging. So this quote from a Dr. Harriet Hall, who is a former Air Force flight surgeon and a prominent blogger on medical questions, said, Dr. Aman charges patients thousands of dollars to inject them with radioactive compounds and show them pretty colored pictures of their brains without any credible evidence that adds to the diagnosis. So during all of his talks, he also does all of these like presentations and talks, and he projects SPECT images on the screen. The healthy, beautiful brains are perfect ovals, creamed colored, fading to violet, and they're smooth. They're as smooth as marble. The unhealthy, diseased, traumatized brains are wrinkled and rumpled and a bit like hooked rugs. The brains of Alzheimer's victims, a dramatic part of Dr. Aman's presentations, because he claims that with this technology he can predict Alzheimer's, which everyone else in the field has said is not possible. So their brains are shriveled and riddled with holes, and they look like meteor fragments fall into Earth. And the picture of Jeff's brain does have like holes in it. And so a brain imaging specialist will tell you that actual brains, even the brains of Alzheimer's sufferers, do not have gaping holes in them. No living person's brain is rumpled like a piece of corrugated metal. A Columbia University professor, Mark Slifstein, who is in the Department of Psychiatry, said, he puts these images on screens in his talks without explanation, implying that this is a photographic likeness to the person's brain. It is not. So I just want to put this out there that the doctor that Jeff is going to may not be the most reputable doctor, and I don't think that, personally, just a personal thought, that Jeff's, like, sure, Jeff could have brain trauma, but I just think the fact that he went to, like, the most sus doctor, who's like a YouTube famous doctor, which like always makes me question them, who is basically just selling this technology that no one else in his field believes in, just kind of tells me that I would kind of just take it all with a grain of salt. Yes, Jeff probably has issues left over from the trauma, whether that's physical issues with his brain or just like the impact of dealing with a trauma like this. So basically they do the brain scan in the video, and they talk about how he has holes in his brain and he has brain damage and they can fix it. They don't tell you how though, and they just kind of, again, move on to the next subject. So I just wanted to put that out there because I don't know how reputable this man is. And then that was the whole video. Again, there was like no details on the eye. There was really no, Jeff kind of talked about how like he wanted to have an ending to this, but there really isn't an ending because it's like, still an ongoing thing for him, which like totally makes sense. And then the last thing I wanted to touch on was that he did a podcast episode talking about everything, and in there he talked about whether or not he was going to sue David. And I mean, we all kind of figured at this point that he wasn't going to sue David, or else he would have said it in the documentary, but he basically said he wasn't going to sue David. He was like, I wasn't raised like that, you know, I was raised to be loyal, which is like either good or bad, which, like, you know, I can understand to an extent. I guess if my best friend almost killed me, I probably wouldn't sue her, but like also at the same time, it's like David isn't just he's not just a regular human, he's like a multi-millionaire who like has a company. So like he wouldn't be suing David, he would be suing whatever David's corporation is called, and like they have insurance for this type of shit. So like realistically, you can sue your friend's insurance basically, and like he would be fine in order to get money as a settlement from this. However, what Jeff says is like, the money wouldn't make me happier, which like is because he's rich. Because anyone that tells you money doesn't bring happiness has money. And then he also says that it would hurt his friendship with David, which, like, quite honestly, if David harbored resentment against him for suing him for nearly murdering him, that would show more on David than it would on Jeff, because Jeff has every right to sue David. And I just feel like if their friendship falls apart years from now, he's going to regret not suing him. But a big thing is, in the video, he says he was talking to Dr. Amen. Again, this man is sus. And Dr. Amen said, if you sue people, you mentally stay hurt, which just sounds like a man who's talked a patient out of suing him previously, allegedly. And I just think that's such a crock of shit. Suing people does not make you mentally hurt. Getting justice for yourself does not make you mentally hurt. Jeff had every right to sue David, and if it's his choice if he doesn't want to. But I do think that saying like, oh, suing him would make me not mentally recover from this is a crock of shit, just fully. I don't think that's fair to say at all. I think that I can understand wanting to move past it. And like I said, Jeff is rich. So like for him, what would the money do? I don't know. Maybe it would prevent David from doing this again. Maybe it would actually teach David a lesson, because David has not really made any comments about the situation. He has not told us what he's going to do going forward about the situation. But I just think that, like I said, I can understand Jeff not wanting to sue his friend, but I don't think it's fair to say that if you sue somebody, you can't mentally recover. You're still like stuck in that time frame. Like, you could still move on and be suing somebody, and quite honestly, if your friend was a friend, he would just settle out of court with you because you have a very, very solid case and your friend nearly killed you in an absolutely negligent act that you should have never been a part of. So that's kind of the wrap up of the series. There wasn't really like any major closure, but I will say it didn't make me see David in any better light. I just think that this whole situation is fucked, and I hope that Jeff does recover from this. You know, he seems to be doing better, but you never know. Obviously, YouTube is a lie. The internet is a lie. But it just made me overall think like David is a trash person. Like, I'm sorry if you're a David stan. I'm not sorry. Who am I kidding? But like, he just has done nothing, has no redeeming qualities in this, other than throwing some money at his friends, which he has always done to save face. But like, he hasn't shown any real empathy or compassion, and this compounded with all of the other shit that has come forward on his channel and the allegations against Dom and everything else just shows that David is reckless. David has no moral compass, and David just does whatever the fuck he wants and like doesn't think about things long term. Like, you know, in the series, Jeff refers to David as a kid a couple times. I think Jeff is like 30 and David's 25, but like 25 is old enough to know, and like you've been doing this long enough and you have hurt enough people that like you should know better by now, but he doesn't. So let me know down below what you guys think. Should Jeff sue David? Do you understand why he's not suing David? What are your overall thoughts about David Dobrik? If you were a stan beforehand, what are your thoughts now? If you were never a stan, what are your thoughts regardless? I would love to hear what you have to say down below. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you love David Dobrik, don't hate me too much in the comments, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye!